Welcome, beautiful Sigma ladies. Some obsessions are designed not to be fulfilled, but to expose the limits of your own power. Throughout history, it has been observed that the sharpest minds and strongest spirits often meet their match not in defeat, but in desire. Studies even show that the human brain reacts more intensely to the things it cannot have than to the things it already possesses. Scarcity fires the imagination far more than abundance ever could. And for Sigma females, the women who live beyond the approval of hierarchies and refuse to bow to society's scripts, this truth hits with brutal precision. The universe, almost mischievously, sends them the one man who will not bend to their aura, who cannot be impressed by their solitude, and who remains unattainable no matter how magnetic their presence is. It's not a punishment, it's a cosmic performance review. The kind that says, "Oh, you thought you were untouchable. Let's see how you handle being the one left reaching." What makes it fascinating is that the Sigma female, who effortlessly dismisses admirers with the same ease most people scroll past ads, suddenly finds herself unsettled. The tables flip. The predator feels the burn of the chase, and though it stings, there's also a dark humor in it all. The universe has the cruelest sense of irony, gifting the most independent woman the one man she cannot add to her collection of dismissals. This isn't about romance in the ordinary sense, it's about collision between her mastery of detachment and the raw, merciless force of something that refuses to be tamed. The result? A storm she didn't plan for, a weakness she swore she didn't have, and a truth that refuses to let her rest. Number 1. The universe's insurance against complacency. The universe has a strange way of keeping people honest, and for the Sigma female, that honesty often comes in the form of frustration she never asked for. She is used to living on her own terms, carving her path without permission, and collecting experiences without explanation. In her world, control is not just a preference, it's the ground she walks on. But then comes the man she can't have, the one person who slips through her grasp no matter how capable, brilliant, or magnetic she is. And in that denial lies the universe's insurance policy against her becoming too comfortable with her own invincibility. If everything always fell into her lap, her independence would eventually become arrogance. She would start believing she had hacked life, conquered desire, and outsmarted human vulnerability. That kind of unchecked confidence doesn't sharpen a person, it dulls them. By refusing her this one man, the universe forces her to confront the uncomfortable truth that no matter how powerful or self-sufficient she is still human enough to ache, to long, to crave without resolution. It's the sharp edge that keeps her from growing soft in her own superiority. There's also a strange kind of beauty in it. Wanting what she cannot have makes her hunger sharper, her awareness deeper. It interrupts the narrative she writes for herself about being untouchable and reminds her that even the strongest spirit needs tension to keep evolving. The unattainable man is not an enemy or a curse, he's a checkpoint, a living reminder that growth doesn't come from collecting victories, but from wrestling with the battles you can't win. And though she may never admit it out loud, part of her respects the balance it brings, because without him she could drift into a dangerous plateau, thinking she is beyond the reach of every weakness. With him she is reminded that even the most independent woman has shadows she cannot escape. The universe doesn't deny her to be cruel. It denies her to keep her alive, restless and in motion. That denial is the friction that ensures she never stops being more than just powerful. She remains real. Number 2. The universe's way of humbling her ego. The universe doesn't hand the Sigma female the unattainable man to punish her. It hands him to her as a mirror she cannot ignore. She has built a reputation on being untouchable, on moving through life with a confidence so sharp it cuts through most egos around her. Yet even the sharpest blade can dull if it never meets resistance. This man, by simply existing beyond her reach, becomes the measure she cannot manipulate, the standard she cannot dominate, and the reminder that no matter how complete she feels, she is still human. Without him, her sense of self could swell unchecked, fed by admiration, victories, and the illusion of control. Pride, left without friction, can grow dangerously untethered. He is the subtle tether that keeps her grounded, the quiet counterbalance to her ego's momentum. His very inaccessibility humbles her, not through words or confrontation, but through his simple, indifferent presence. It forces her to recognize limits she rarely admits, to face desire she cannot command, and to acknowledge that some things exist outside her influence. This isn't weakness, it's refinement. He keeps her sharp, aware, and surprisingly vulnerable in ways she would never allow in ordinary circumstances. It's the universe's way of calibrating her, ensuring that her power never tips into arrogance, that her independence doesn't isolate her from reality. In a world that often bends to her will, he stands unmoved, a silent instructor, teaching the value of restraint and humility. The unattainable man doesn't diminish her. He preserves her, reminding her that even the strongest, most self-reliant Sigma female needs a counterweight to stay truly alive and human. Number 3. The challenge she can't outsmart. The Sigma female is accustomed to being the one who controls the game. She reads people like open books, predicts moves before they're made, and bends social situations to her advantage with effortless precision. Men often find themselves outmatched, unable to keep up with her mind or anticipate her strategies. She thrives on this control, this ability to outthink, outmaneuver, and even outlast those around her. But then there is the man she cannot have, and suddenly everything she knows about power and perception stops working. He is not a puzzle to solve, a system to crack, or a strategy to beat. He does not respond to charm, logic, or manipulation. He is a wall, not a maze. The Sigma female, who is used to calculating outcomes and predicting behavior, encounters something immovable. His presence doesn't provoke strategy, it provokes reflection. For the first time, she experiences a force she cannot bend, a challenge that cannot be outsmarted. This is not merely frustration, it is revelation. She realizes that her skills, which have carried her through countless encounters, have limits. There are situations where intelligence alone cannot grant victory. There are people who will never yield, no matter how brilliant or resourceful she is. And in that, there is both humiliation and enlightenment. The unattainable man forces her to confront her own vulnerabilities in a way few experiences can. He shows her that strength isn't measured solely by mastery, but also by the ability to accept when control is impossible. She is forced to acknowledge a part of herself that thrives on domination, but must now confront patience, longing, and restraint, things she rarely grants herself. And yet, there is a strange, almost addictive allure in the challenge. He is the mirror reflecting her limits, the wall against which she tests the steel of her independence. She cannot outthink him, cannot manipulate him, cannot bend him, and that is exactly what makes his presence irresistible. He doesn't just test her skills, he exposes the truth that no one, no matter how formidable, is ever truly untouchable. Number 4. The one proof that desire isn't a choice. For the Sigma female, life is usually a careful balance of intellect, strategy, and self-mastery. She approaches relationships with the same precision she applies to her work or her solitude, measuring, filtering, calculating. She believes she can choose what to want, who to care for, and when to open her heart. But then comes the one man she cannot have, and all her rules collapse quietly, insistently, like a machine that refuses to obey its operator. This man is not swayed by charm, logic, or manipulation, and yet he stirs something in her that defies explanation. It is proof that desire is not a product of reason, nor is it always negotiable. No amount of self-discipline or mental fortitude can override the pull of biology, intuition, and spirit. She may resist, she may analyze, she may retreat into her fortress of independence, but the truth remains. She cannot control who makes her pulse quicken, or whose absence echoes in her thoughts. In him, the Sigma female confronts a paradox. Her life is built on control, on careful navigation of her choices. Yet here is a force entirely outside her command. It is humbling and terrifying. The knowledge that no matter how unshakable she believes herself to be, there exist forces she cannot bend. Desire does not negotiate. It does not reason. It simply asserts itself, quietly demanding attention, even in someone who prides herself on autonomy. This is why he matters so profoundly. He is not a threat in the conventional sense. He is a mirror. He reveals the parts of her that cannot be reasoned with, the currents of longing that flow beneath her armor of logic. He reminds her that being untouchable is a myth, that even the strongest mind and the most disciplined spirit are subject to forces far older and wiser than intention. And in that undeniable truth, there is a rare clarity. The Sigma female learns that surrendering, even partially, is not failure. Recognizing desire without yielding to it is mastery of a different, deeper kind, a knowledge that she is alive not just in thought or action, but in feeling. This man, unattainable and immovable, becomes her proof. Some things, no matter how much she plans, remain sovereign, and in surrendering to that, she discovers the edges of her own humanity. Number 5. A reminder that not everything is earned. The Sigma female is no stranger to achievement. She's built her life on intellect, grit, and an unspoken understanding of how to navigate the world. Success, recognition, even admiration. She knows how to earn all of it. Her independence and competence are not accidents. They are the result of deliberate effort, of strategy and self-discipline. But then comes the man she cannot have, and suddenly, all of her rules about effort, merit, and reward collapse under the weight of an inconvenient truth. Not everything in life can be earned. This man defies the usual equations she applies to the world. Her intelligence can't predict him. Her charm cannot move him. Her strategy, honed over years of navigating people and circumstances, fails to open even a single door. He exists outside the transactional reality she's so accustomed to, and in that, he becomes both a source of frustration and a revelation. The Sigma female realizes that life is not always a ledger, that desire and human connection do not always respond to calculation or effort. There's a subtle cruelty in this, but also a lesson. The universe doesn't always hand out results proportional to input. Even the most independent, capable woman has to confront forces she cannot control, outcomes she cannot influence, and attractions she cannot earn. The unattainable man is a living reminder that some things simply exist outside meritocracy. No matter how precise or formidable she is, she must face the reality that effort alone cannot always shape reality. This is not a defeat, it's an awakening. The Sigma female learns humility in the form of desire, a lesson in limits wrapped in longing. She is forced to acknowledge that some elements of life, people, emotions, timing, operate on a scale beyond her mastery. And in that acknowledgement, there is growth. The man she cannot have becomes more than an obstacle. He becomes proof that even someone who thrives on control and calculation must sometimes confront what cannot be controlled, what cannot be earned, and what cannot be predicted. The universe, in its quiet and precise way, uses him to ensure she never confuses competence with omnipotence, reminding her that mastery is not total, and that even the strongest Sigma female must occasionally bow to the unearnable. Number 6. The silence that makes her scream inside. For the Sigma female, most challenges are puzzles, problems to solve, situations to analyze, people to read and predict. She can negotiate, strategize, charm, or manipulate when she wants to, and usually with extraordinary precision. But then there is the man she cannot have, and with him comes a force she cannot counter, debate, or control: silence. His absence speaks louder than words, his inaction heavier than any argument. He doesn't respond to her logic, he doesn't justify, he doesn't explain. He simply exists, or rather he simply doesn't, leaving a void that defies her usual mastery. Silence is more powerful than confrontation for her because it cannot be broken down, reasoned through, or outmaneuvered. She can handle resistance, even rejection, but nothing tests her self-command like the quiet that surrounds someone she desires yet cannot claim. Every unreturned glance, every absence, every unanswered impulse becomes a mirror reflecting her own craving. It forces her to sit with emotions she has long prided herself on controlling, to feel tension without relief, longing without negotiation. This is what makes it both painful and intoxicating. She realizes that her intelligence and strategies, the very tools that allow her to dominate most social and emotional landscapes, have no leverage here. The silence isn't cruel in intention. It's absolute, in effect. And that absoluteness humbles her. It teaches her that some forces in life, some forms of connection and desire, cannot be negotiated or tamed. There is also a strange clarity in this void. Without his words or actions, she is left alone with herself, her instincts, and her vulnerabilities. The quiet becomes a teacher, revealing where her strength ends and her humanity begins. It's in the absence that she learns the limits of control, the boundaries of influence, and the truth that even the most self-reliant Sigma female can be affected in ways she cannot explain. In the end, silence is more than an absence. It is a force. It refuses argument, evades manipulation, and leaves her raw yet enlightened. And in that rawness, she discovers a hidden depth of longing and self-awareness, the kind that only the unattainable can evoke. Number 7. The person who makes her feel what she makes others feel. The Sigma female moves through life with a kind of magnetic independence that leaves impressions wherever she goes. She is brilliant, captivating, untouchable in ways that most people can't resist yet rarely possess. In her wake, there are always those she has intrigued, admired, or even captivated, people who wanted more than she offered, who chased what she did not intend to give. She rarely thinks of it as cruelty. It's just the natural consequence of being untethered, of living according to her own rules. But life, in its quiet irony, has a way of balancing the scales. The unattainable man becomes her mirror in ways she rarely expects. He is the one who will not bend to her presence, who cannot be won by charm, strategy, or desire. In his resistance, she begins to feel the same ache she once left in the hearts of others. It is not punishment, but reflection, a karmic symmetry that forces her to confront the reality of longing from the other side. The chase she once instigated is now reversed, and she experiences the vulnerability, frustration, and subtle despair she may have casually inspired in those who pursued her. This is both unsettling and revealing. She realizes that power and independence do not make her immune to desire, nor do they exempt her from the discomfort of unreciprocated longing. The man she cannot have exposes the limits of her influence, the boundaries of her control, and the fact that even the strongest Sigma female is human enough to feel the sting of unattainable connection. In that reflection lies growth. She is forced to sit with emotions she may have dismissed in others, to acknowledge the complexity of desire and rejection, and to understand that influence has its limits. The unattainable man doesn't simply frustrate her. He teaches her empathy through absence, patience through longing, and humility through the reminder that no one is ever fully in command of another's heart. By making her feel what she has made others feel, he becomes a teacher she cannot ignore. She cannot outthink this lesson or strategize her way around it. In the quiet ache of unfulfilled desire, she learns one of life's rare truths, that even independence must contend with the echoes of human emotion, and even a Sigma female must one day feel the balance she has left in the hearts of others. Number 8. The disruption of her cold logic. The Sigma female has built her life on clarity, precision, and cold logic. She thrives on making decisions that are rational, calculated, and efficient. Her rule is simple. If something or someone is unavailable, discard it. No wasted energy, no lingering attachment, no unnecessary complications. This approach has served her well for years, keeping her free, focused, and unburdened by neediness or emotional turbulence. But then comes the one man she cannot have, and suddenly all her careful reasoning begins to falter. Her mind shouts one thing: walk away, it's unavailable, it's not worth your time. But her emotions, raw and insistent, scream another. Desire, longing, and curiosity rise unbidden, defying logic, strategy, and control. It's a battle she has rarely faced, the collision of her razor-sharp intellect with her untamed humanity. For the first time, she cannot simply engineer her way out of a feeling, cannot calculate a perfect exit, cannot neutralize the emotional gravity pulling at her. This disruption is both disorienting and intoxicating. She begins to recognize the limits of control, the boundaries of rationality, and the presence of forces within her that no strategy can suppress. Her independence, so meticulously maintained, feels fragile in the face of something she cannot command or reason with. The man she cannot have is not just a challenge to her desire, He is a challenge to her very sense of self, her belief that she can always dictate her world with logic alone. Yet there is a strange clarity in this chaos. By confronting the rebellion of her emotions, she glimpses a deeper understanding of herself. That strength is not just intellect, and freedom is not just autonomy. There are elements of life and longing that resist mastery, moments that require acceptance rather than calculation. Her cold logic has its place, but it is not absolute. In this disruption, she is forced to feel, to acknowledge, and to wrestle with the truth that even the most self-reliant Sigma female is subject to forces beyond reasoning. Her brain may map the world, but her heart reminds her that some battles are never meant to be won. And in that tension, she discovers both vulnerability and growth, the raw, undeniable essence of being human. Number 9. A catalyst for evolution she wouldn't choose. The Sigma female is accustomed to walking her own path, unbothered by convention, unbound by expectation, and unchallenged in her independence. She moves through life with a rhythm of her own making, confident that her trajectory is self-determined, precise, and unassailable. But then comes the one man she cannot have, and suddenly the path she has carefully constructed is interrupted. He is not an obstacle she can outmaneuver or a puzzle she can solve. He is a catalyst, a force that disrupts the familiar and compels change she would never have chosen on her own. His presence, or more accurately, his inaccessibility, forces her to confront emotional landscapes she has long avoided. She is challenged to feel without control, to desire without outcome, and to wrestle with vulnerability in ways that defy her usual self-mastery. Every instinct to strategize, dominate, or detach is met with resistance from the one thing she cannot command, the pull of what is unattainable. He does not bend to her logic, nor does he respond to her skill at influence. Instead, he exposes the gaps in her armor, the uncharted corners of her emotional terrain, and the raw edges of her humanity. In this disruption, evolution occurs, not as a choice but as a necessity. She must adapt, not for victory, but simply to navigate the tension between desire and reality. She learns patience she would not have sought, humility she might have resisted, and a depth of introspection that her independence had long postponed. Every moment spent grappling with what she cannot have becomes a lesson in self-awareness, a challenge to grow in ways she had previously ignored or deemed unnecessary. The irony is exquisite. The Sigma female, so skilled at mastering life and people, discovers that true growth often comes from forces outside mastery. The unattainable man is not just an irritation or a longing. He is a teacher, forcing evolution in directions she would never have voluntarily taken. He proves that life's most profound changes often arrive unbidden, through friction, denial, and the subtle insistence of what cannot be controlled. In the end, she emerges different, not defeated, not broken, but evolved. The universe, in its quiet and deliberate way, uses the one she cannot have to ensure she continues moving forward, not just on her path, but into dimensions of herself she would never have explored alone. Number 10. The proof that mystery attracts mystery. The Sigma female thrives on mystery. Her independence, intelligence, and aura create a puzzle that few can approach, let alone solve. Men are drawn to her precisely because she cannot be fully understood. Her elusiveness is part of her power, part of her identity. She is used to being the observer, the strategist, the one who deciphers hidden motives while keeping her own perfectly shielded. Her life is a carefully managed equation of control and enigma, until the one man she cannot have appears. He is not just resistant or indifferent. He is equally enigmatic, a force that refuses to be analyzed, categorized, or predicted. The usual tools she relies on, observation, logic, charm, fail utterly. In trying to understand him, she encounters a mirror of her own mystery, a person who cannot be possessed, decoded, or simplified. For the first time, she faces someone as impenetrable as she is, someone who refuses to fit into her carefully mapped expectations of the world. This collision unsettles her profoundly. Mystery, when wielded by her, is power. When wielded by him, it is destabilizing. She experiences the rare vulnerability of fascination without control, curiosity without mastery, and desire without resolution. The paradox of encountering someone she cannot decode forces her to confront the limits of her own perception and the boundaries of her own independence. There is a strange exhilaration in it, however. In trying and failing to understand him, she is challenged to expand her perception, to accept ambiguity, and to navigate a connection that cannot be reduced to strategy or logic. He becomes a teacher through his enigma, reminding her that even the most self-reliant, mysterious Sigma female can encounter forces that disrupt her identity and demand growth. Ultimately, this man proves a subtle truth. Mystery attracts mystery. Her allure, so often used to observe, influence, or control, is met with an equal measure in him, creating a tension that is both disorienting and illuminating. She is reminded that some connections exist outside mastery, outside logic, and outside expectation, and in that recognition, she experiences a rare kind of awakening, a challenge to her ego, a test of her independence, and the undeniable thrill of encountering a soul as unfathomable as her own. Number 11. The unsettling absence of neediness. The Sigma female is accustomed to being pursued. Her allure, intelligence, and independence naturally draw attention, and most people around her, especially men, enter into an unspoken transaction. They offer desire, attention, or admiration, and in return, they hope for acknowledgement, influence, or connection. She has grown skilled at reading this dynamic, understanding the subtle power plays, and even manipulating them when it suits her. She knows how to navigate neediness, how to manage expectations, and how to assert control through the unbalanced dance of pursuit. Then comes the one man she cannot have, and everything changes. He does not crawl for her attention. He does not flatter, chase, or negotiate for proximity. His lack of need is absolute, and it unsettles her in ways few others ever could. Suddenly, the rules she has mastered, subtle hierarchies of desire, the transactional nature of attraction no longer apply. She cannot leverage him, negotiate with him, or predict his responses. He exists entirely outside the framework she relies on to measure influence and power. This absence of need destabilizes her because it exposes the hidden assumptions beneath her confidence. She is used to being the one in control, to seeing desire as a currency she can read and deploy. But with him, desire is not currency. It is a force she cannot bargain with. Her usual tools, strategy, charm, intellect, fail to yield results, leaving her to confront a rare and humbling truth. Not everyone participates in the game of negotiation, and some people remain sovereign no matter her intentions. The effect is both frustrating and illuminating. In experiencing someone who does not respond to her usual mastery, she is forced to reckon with her own limits and the illusion of absolute control. She learns that independence, while powerful, is not the same as omnipotence, and that true strength sometimes lies in accepting forces that cannot be influenced. He becomes a paradoxical teacher. By refusing to play, he teaches her restraint. By remaining indifferent, he teaches patience. And by existing on his own terms, he exposes her to a kind of vulnerability she rarely experiences. The lack of neediness, so simple on the surface, becomes a force that reshapes her understanding of power, desire, and human connection, leaving her both unsettled and profoundly changed. Number 12. The one person who refuses to be impressed. The Sigma female is used to impact. When she enters a room, her presence shifts energy. Intelligence, beauty, wit, and mystery are tools she wields effortlessly, and people, especially men, respond predictably. They are impressed, enchanted, and sometimes intimidated. She has grown accustomed to this dynamic, to the unspoken recognition of her influence and to the subtle power it affords her. For her, admiration is usually a given, and she navigates it with ease. Then comes the one man she cannot have, and everything changes. He does not bend to her presence, does not marvel at her intellect, does not chase her intrigue. He remains untouched, neutral, and indifferent, not in a dismissive or hostile way, but in a way that refuses to participate in her usual patterns of influence. His neutrality is terrifying because it is absolute. For the first time, she encounters someone whose gaze does not validate her, whose presence does not react to her power, and whose being cannot be manipulated by charm, intellect, or allure. This lack of reaction destabilizes her in a way few things ever could. She is accustomed to command, accustomed to control, and accustomed to the subtle affirmations that reinforce her identity. His indifference strips all of that away, leaving her exposed to a rare and humbling reality. She cannot impress everyone. She cannot control every interaction. And she cannot claim influence over forces that refuse participation. There is a strange magnetism in this neutrality. His lack of reaction forces her to confront herself, to examine the nature of her desire, and to reckon with the limitations of her power. He becomes a mirror, reflecting not her flaws, but the boundaries of her mastery. The challenge is intoxicating precisely because it cannot be overcome through strategy, charm, or intellect. He exists entirely outside the equations she usually relies upon. In the end, he is neither rejection nor conquest. He is calibration. He reminds her that influence is not absolute, that admiration is never guaranteed, and that even the most self-reliant Sigma female can encounter someone impervious to her presence. In his neutrality, she finds both frustration and awakening, a rare, unsettling, and ultimately enlightening confrontation with the limits of her power and the depth of her humanity. In the end, the unattainable man is more than a figure of desire. He is a force, a mirror, and a catalyst for the Sigma female in ways few experiences ever can be. Every point of tension, every paradox, every spark of longing and frustration converges to teach her something profound. Independence does not equate to invincibility, mastery does not erase vulnerability, and power is never absolute. Through him, she confronts the limits of control, the paradox of desire, the boundaries of her ego, and the truths hidden even from herself. He exposes the cracks in her armor, the intensity she cannot command, and the emotions she cannot rationalize. He forces evolution in directions she would never have chosen, challenges her cold logic, humbles her ego, and illuminates the unspoken standards she had long claimed were irrelevant. In doing so, he reminds her that life's most profound lessons often come without permission, without resolution, and without ease. Desire, longing, and growth are not earned, they are experienced, and sometimes they are deliberately denied to ensure she remains alive to her own depth. And there is a strange beauty in all of this. The frustration, the paradox, the tension, they are not punishments, they are calibrations. They keep her sharp, human, and evolving. They prove that even the most independent, brilliant, and self-reliant woman is still alive, still capable of feeling, and still capable of transformation. In meeting the one man she cannot have, she discovers not weakness but clarity, not loss but evolution, not limitation but the extraordinary scope of her own humanity. The unattainable man is not an obstacle to be conquered, he is a reminder, a teacher, and a force that ensures the Sigma female continues to grow, to feel, and to become more than even she thought possible. In his absence she finds presence, in his indifference she finds reflection, and in her desire for what cannot be had she finds the edge of her own extraordinary self. If you found this deep dive into the Sigma female and the one man she cannot have as fascinating as we did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss insights like these. Give this video a like if it resonated with you. Comment below with your thoughts or experiences. You never know who might read them. And don't forget to share this with someone who needs to hear it. Every like, comment, and share helps us keep creating content that challenges the mind, sparks curiosity, and unveils truths most people never talk about.